Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Right, this week I'm going to talk about something very topical and a program that a lot of you might have been watching as well. So I was very excited that on Thursday night the first two episodes of the highly anticipated and just like that the new installment of Sex and the City came out. I am and always have been a big Sex and the City fan. However, I was pretty disappointed, as I think quite a lot of other people were, for reasons which I'm going to go on to explain shortly. Just to put it out there first, there are some plot spoilers in this for the first two episodes. So if you haven't watched them, I believe you can check them out on Now TV or Sky Comedy. But if you haven't watched them yet, go and watch them before watching this, because as I said, there are plot spoilers. So first things first, let's just tackle the big sort of elephant in the room, if you like. What happened to Samantha? So Kim Cattrall had been very, straightforward, and she'd been saying it for some years that she didn't want to reprise the role of Samantha. She had said that she loved it at the time basically and given it her all, but she felt she'd done kind of what she set out to do. I'm paraphrasing here, but she's given several interviews on the subject, and that's pretty much been the gist of it. She did an interview with Piers Morgan whereby she said, why are people calling me a diva? Like, I've every right to say no to something that I don't want to do. And I can totally see her point of view, because Samantha was a great character, but I mean, she acted as Samantha for years, and now she wants to go on and do further projects, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Actors do that all the time. Case in point being Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin said there was enough material that another 3 series could be done, but the showrunners Dan and Dave, I can't remember their surnames, but they wanted to go on and do different projects because they were basically exhausted, and probably, I don't know, maybe the actors wanted to do more series as well, but maybe some of them were happy to go and pursue further projects as well. And that happens in movies and series all the time. When people do a series that they're really proud of, like, quite often you will hear actors saying, I absolutely loved it and we could have gone on for another series, but we wanted to leave it at a high point and not damage the reputation of the series by putting out something else that maybe wouldn't have been as good as past efforts, and thereby ruining the reputation and their status as like a cult classic in the years to come. So that's completely fair. So I am Team Kim Cattrall all the way on that one. I think she is perfectly within her rights to say no and stick to her boundaries and not be made to feel bad or forced into doing something she doesn't want to do. So that said, what was the explanation given for her absence in the series? As a lot of you are probably aware, apparently the reason why Samantha does not talk to Carrie and the rest of the gang anymore is that Carrie basically sacked Samantha as her publicist, because she basically said it didn't really make financial sense to keep her on as her publicist. And she said that Samantha, she didn't think that she was just an ATM to Samantha, but basically she let her go as her PR person, and Samantha fired her as a friend. Now, that just does not ring true for several reasons. Okay, firstly, Samantha had a very strong performing business. She had Smith Jerrod on her books, who became a major Hollywood star. It always appeared that she had lots of big successful clients. She in Sex and the City 2, she had that big deal with the sheikhs, where she went, they stayed in that luxurious, what would you call it, mansion, hotel, I don't really know what the correct term is, but in Dubai, and frankly, Samantha was more interested in getting it on with Lawrence and my labia than she was with keeping the business deal with her partners over there. So, I mean, the idea that Samantha would, that Samantha needed Carrie for money, it just doesn't ring true. I mean, we never actually know how much money Carrie's book made. We know at the time of the series that, it did go international. It was published in other countries. We all remember the famous bit at the end of the series where she was meant to go and meet her, the final series, sorry, where she was meant to go and meet her French fans, and unfortunately she couldn't because the Russian made her go to his exhibition. Darling, I will never stop holding your hand, or something like that. Of course he did. Or no, darling, never let me go. Of course he did, and she ended up missing her meeting with her two French fans. The book was sitting on the table with the iconic, not iconic at all, wine glass stain on it. So yeah, she had that success, but I mean, that was years ago. So how much, business would her book still be doing after all those years? Let's face it, it wasn't like she was J.K. Rowling or something. It was a book based on columns that she had written for, a newspaper at the time. So, it wasn't like, a Nobel Prize winner or anything. I don't know, possibly she might have brought another book out, but even then, I don't know how much money that was going to make. If anything, we were always kind of led to believe that Samantha was, doing Carrie more of a favour by being her publicist. Certainly, never got the impression that she needed Carrie as a client for financial reasons. So that just didn't ring true. But then also the comments, the ATM comment, that just came across as, a little bit petty, to be honest. And maybe it's life imitating art there. I mean, obviously we don't know what happened. Everyone says Sarah Jessica Parker is actually a lovely person in real life. So I'm not gonna, disagree with that. But, they were, I think as Kim Cattrall once said, they were colleagues, not friends, and that's absolutely fair enough. Kim Cattrall doesn't have to act like the rest of the girls in real life are her best friends, if they're not. So the Samantha storyline just did not ring true. Also, Samantha was always a very good friend, always supportive, never judgmental. In fact, if anything, Carrie was the judgmental one who judged Samantha for, some of her sexcapades. So it just, as I said, it just did not ring true, and I don't think the fans bought it. And then, of course, plot spoiler alert, Samantha didn't show up to the funeral. Listen, when Samantha had breast cancer, she didn't want to tell the girls because she didn't want them to worry. She was considerate, and she actually always got on very well with Big as well. So I just cannot see that a woman who went to Mexico at zero notice because Big ditched Carrie at the altar, well, technically not altar, but you know what I mean, because she didn't get married, she ditched everything to go on a 2-week holiday to Mexico, and this is the same woman that wouldn't go to his funeral? Nah, not buying it. Sorry, no. I understand that they wanted to keep the door open in case Kim Cattrall ever did decide to come back, even though she has firmly said she doesn't want to, and why they can't accept that, I just do not know. But anyway, I understand they wanted to keep the door open, so they didn't want to kill the character off. But to make those remarks about the ATM and so forth, it just seemed petty. So, right, that was one of the main, obviously, plot points. The second one, and as I said at the start, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it because this is a big plot spoiler. But of course, we had the death of Big, aka John Preston. I have some issues with how this was done. I really did not like the way they interspersed the clips of Lily playing her dramatic piano recital with John on the Peloton, because you were just waiting, like it was so, it just seems so cliche, just really like, and the cutting back and forth, and it was just, no. And also, you know, some of the dialogue in the movie in general was really like quite cringy. The COVID sort of, the few jokes about COVID and stuff like that at the start, it was just like, that was just awkward, to be honest. Yeah. So I actually think, right, controversial opinion, I actually think it was quite good that they basically took Big out of the equation as a character. The reason being, similarly to the Bridget Jones novels, I believe Darcy got killed off in the novels as well. You know, the whole premise of Sex and the City originally was that it was meant to be about 4 single women in the city. To be frank, I always thought it was a cop-out that Carrie ended up with Big anyway. It just wasn't realistic for several reasons. If this was real life, let's face it, Carrie would have been ghosted by Big years ago. Okay, bear with me. Case in point being the time that he clearly said, this was near when they were starting to go out, and he said, you know, oh, me and my mom like to go to church together, it's our kind of thing, we like to do it together on Sundays. Carrie kept on pushing, can I come? No, it's just something I like to do with my mom, it's our kind of little thing we like to do together. Carrie shows up, hi, like, you know, like, boundaries, like seriously. And then, you know, when Big was basically like, what did you do that for? Because it only like started going out quite recently, you know, and introducing to someone to your parents is quite a big deal. So really, I think she should have respected that. But however, I think weren't they meant to go on a mini holiday weekend away or something like that, and then she was like, I'm not going, I've had enough or whatever. I mean, yeah, I thought, like, I know Sex and the City, it was actually a more innocent age because ghosting wasn't a mainstream thing back then. If you recall, you know, the whole scandal was Berger's Post-it. Like, how could he end it by a Post-it? By today's standards, you know, you'd be going, well, at least he, you know, wrote you something. He didn't just disappear off. And don't get me wrong, I think ghosting is absolutely pathetic. Like, it's just ill manners, and it just shows complete immaturity in my personal opinion. Not but like seriously, if you know, it does happen. So whereas it didn't, you know, it didn't seem to be a mainstream thing back when Sex and the City first came out, so it was kind of, yeah, it was a more innocent age in a way. I remember when it first came out, I absolutely used to love. Sorry, someone actually rang me on my phone there, and I'm recording this on my phone, so yeah, that there's a bit of a difficulty in that. But anyway, yeah, I was just saying, when Sex and the City first came out, I was actually still at school, and it was on Channel 4 on Thursday evenings again, like it is now, a double billing at 9 p.m. And I looked forward to it all week and couldn't wait until it was on. My mom has a thing, she actually pretty much hates all American TV shows. I won't even go into it now, but you know, she wouldn't let me, because if she was in the living room, she'd be like, I'm not watching that. You can go out and watch it in the kitchen. I'm not watching that rubbish, kind of thing. And then sometimes, like, my dad would come in from his rowing with like a takeaway, so he'd be in the kitchen eating that, and he'd be like, oh, that's Samantha's so awful. She's so promiscuous. And I'd be like, shut up, I'm trying to watch this. But yeah, so I just have like fond memories of, you know, watching it every week when I was at school as well. But going back to And Just Like That, yeah, I do think it was good that essentially Big and Carrie have split up. I know a lot of fans were frustrated at that because they felt that it took them so long to get together. It would have been nice to see them actually together. But to be honest with you, in my opinion, when Big and Carrie were together in a functional sense, they were actually quite boring together. And I think that kind of came through in the movies as well. Um, yeah, I think to kind of, you know, stay true to the roots of the program, I actually think that Carrie kind of needs to be single in a way, because, as I said, the show was all about four single women and how they navigated the city. So really, I think that the writers will actually have way more material to cover now, because they'll be able to have, like, Carrie, I imagine, maybe go on Tinder, maybe go on online dates, navigate all that different stuff. Now, of course, there's an obvious issue there, because maybe if, you know, what they could have done was had it that maybe Carrie and Big split up some years ago, or, you know, he could have died a few years ago, but because he's just died now, she obviously has to navigate, you know, the grieving process as well, so they won't be able to go into all that, you know, dating material, I guess, which, as I said, there was a more innocent age. It'd be interesting to see the comparisons and how the girls, or, you know, Carrie would navigate the dating scene today, given the changes that have occurred since 20 years ago when the series was last on. Now, there's other issues with it, you know. Why did they have to put the two gay characters together and have them get married just because they were the two gay characters? Her gay friend's marrying my best friend. Oh, God, tiresome. They have nothing in common. Now, it is obviously very sad that Willie Garson has passed away. I always thought he was a great character in the show. And yeah, that's obviously, you know, that's, don't even get me started on what has happened to Miranda, whereby she goes to her lecture and she basically turns into, you know, a gibbering mess, and there, you know, she gets accused of being a white savior and so forth. Look, at we know times have changed since when Sex and the City series was first on, and everything has to, you know, the sort of morals and mores in the show and portrayed in the show you know, at that time were very much of the time. And it's similar to the way that, you know, people complain about Friends today and say, oh my God, I can't believe they used to make those jokes or whatever, and it's not really what the Gen Z cohort wants to see. You know, in the series, these characters are meant to have continued on in real life. So, I mean, Miranda was always a very cool, calm and collected, very tuned in, very smart, very ambitious, very much down to earth. So it doesn't really ring true that, you know, just because the you know, the original values of the show might have been different, it doesn't really, you know, her character has not been, just because we last saw the series 20 years ago doesn't mean that her character has been stuck out in some time or not experiencing the real world in between then to know, you know, how to act in the scenarios that she was without coming across as just not Miranda. Other things that have changed are apparently Carrie no longer uses her stove for sweaters, you know, which fair enough, but I mean, why did she all of a sudden become a cook when she never was? Just because she's married? I also didn't like the way that Big died during Lily's recital because it also set up this antagonism between should you do things with your friends or like out of obligation to your friends, or should you do the things that you want to do? And then it also set up this thing of Charlotte then felt bad that she had invited Carrie to Lily's recital and she'd made Lily, or pardon me, Carrie come to it. And that reminded me of how like Miranda felt bad that like maybe she was the cause of Big and Carrie splitting up when she said marriage is terrible, don't ever do it, and that weighed in her mind. So there always seems to be this dynamic of the friends sort of feel bad and guilty about basically asking Carrie to be their friend, as if like anything that doesn't revolve around Carrie is a bad thing, and them asking Carrie to make an effort to be there in their lives is almost something that they shouldn't do. I don't know, I just thought it's kind of set up that antagonism and I didn't really like that, to be honest. So that's the end of the video. Thanks very much for watching. What did you think about the series? Did you agree with my points? Did you think they were fair? Will you continue to watch it? I probably will continue to watch it, even though I just criticised it. I still love Sex and the City, really. So yeah, I'll see how the next few episodes go anyway. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, and thank you very much for watching. Bye!